In 2006, you could fill a gas tank for $20, buy a week of groceries for $80, take your family to a sit-down dinner for $40, tip included, a movie ticket, $8, a new iPhone, $0. It didn't exist yet. Now here's what those same things cost in 2026. Gas, $60, groceries, $200, dinner, $90, movie ticket, $18. Nobody stole from you. No one broke into your account. No crime was committed. Your money just quietly became worth less. Not worthless, less. And the thing is, that gap between 2006 and 2026 isn't an accident. It isn't chaos. It's a mechanism. It's called inflation, and it has been running uninterrupted your entire adult life. Today we're going to look at exactly what happened to the dollar over 20 years, the numbers, the causes, the part that nobody in a suit on television ever quite explains clearly. And by the end, you're going to understand something that will permanently change how you think about saving money. What inflation actually is. Imagine money is a ticket. Every ticket gets you access to things: food, rent, fuel, medical care. Now imagine someone quietly starts printing more tickets. The rides didn't change, the food didn't change, but there are now more tickets chasing the same amount of stuff. What happens? Each ticket buys slightly less than it did before. That's inflation. The Federal Reserve, America's central bank, targets roughly 2% inflation per year. That's the official goal. 2% sounds harmless, almost nothing, a rounding error. But 2% compounding annually over 20 years doesn't give you 40% inflation. It gives you 49%. And the last 20 years weren't just 2% per year. Between 2006 and 2026, cumulative U.S. inflation crossed 60%, meaning $100 in 2006 has the purchasing power of roughly $62 today. $38 gone, not spent, not lost in a bad investment, just eroded. 2006. The world looks pretty stable. The housing market is booming. Stock markets are near all-time highs. Interest rates sit around 5%, which means banks are actually paying you to save money. Then 2008 happens. The financial crisis is so severe that the Federal Reserve does something it has almost never done before. It slashes interest rates to near zero and leaves them there for years. It also begins injecting money into the banking system, a program called quantitative easing on a scale that had never been attempted in American history. Trillions of dollars, created essentially from nothing, pumped into the financial system to prevent a total collapse. This was controversial, but it worked. The economy stabilized, so they kept doing it. Rates near zero, more money creation, more stimulus, year after year. 2009, 2011, 2013, 2015. The logic was, if a little works, why stop? For a long time, inflation stayed low, mysteriously low, actually, below 2%. Economists were quietly puzzled. The old rules seemed broken. Then 2020 arrived. A global pandemic shuts down the world economy. Supply chains, the invisible machinery that moves goods from factories to shelves, seize up completely, and governments, terrified, respond with the largest peacetime spending programs in history. The U.S. alone pumped over $5 trillion into the economy in under 2 years. Stimulus checks, business loans, enhanced unemployment, direct transfers. More money, less stuff. Remember that equation. By 2022, inflation in the U.S. hit 9.1%, the highest in 40 years. 9.1% in a single year. The Fed, somewhat sheepishly, admitted they had misjudged. They raised rates aggressively, faster than at almost any point in modern history, trying to push that number back down. It worked, eventually. By 2024, inflation was retreating. By 2025, it was near 3% again. But here's what nobody celebrates at the press conference. Lower inflation doesn't mean prices go back down. It means prices stop rising as fast. Everything that happened in 2022, the grocery bill, the rent, the utility costs, that's still there, locked in, the new baseline, forever. In 2006, the median U.S. household income was about $48,000 a year. In 2026, it's roughly $80,000. Sounds like progress. 66% increase. Not bad. Except inflation over that same period was 60%. So real income adjusted for inflation, went up maybe 6% over 20 years. That's not 60 years. That's not 30. That's 6% in 20 years, while rent in most major cities doubled, while healthcare costs tripled, while college tuition climbed at twice the rate of general inflation. The average American technically earned more every year and felt poorer every year. Both things were simultaneously true. If you had debt in 2006, say a mortgage at a fixed rate, inflation actually worked in your favor. You borrowed in old dollars and paid back in new, cheaper dollars. The bank got less purchasing power than it lent you. That's not a conspiracy, that's just math. If you owned hard assets, real estate, stocks, commodities, those things tend to rise in price alongside inflation, sometimes faster. So your net worth expanded in nominal terms, even if underlying purchasing power was eroding. But if you held cash, if you saved in a traditional bank account, if you were cautious, conservative, doing what your parents told you, tuck money away, build an emergency fund, don't take risks, you absorbed the full cost. The irony is surgical. The system penalizes the cautious and subsidizes the leveraged. It rewards people who borrowed to buy things and punishes people who saved to buy things. That's not a design flaw, that's the design. Central banks know this. Economists know this. The people setting interest rate policy know this. And the policy continues. Every major economy in the world targets positive inflation. 2% is the goal almost universally. Not zero, not negative, positive. Why? Because deflation, falling prices, is considered far more dangerous. When prices drop, people stop spending. They wait. Why buy a car today if it's cheaper next year? Why build a factory? Why hire anyone? Deflation creates a paralysis that can collapse economies entirely. Japan spent decades trapped in it. So the choice deliberately made is this. We will slowly erode the purchasing power of savings to keep the machine moving. Every dollar you hold is very quietly taxed, not by the government, but by time itself. By money printing decisions made in buildings most people will never enter, by people most people could not name. It's a real tax, it just doesn't show up on your return. Now zoom out further. The United States currently carries over $35 trillion in national debt. The only realistic way to make that debt manageable, short of catastrophic default, is inflation. If the dollar keeps losing value, the real cost of that debt keeps falling. So there is structural, institutional pressure to maintain moderate inflation indefinitely. The machine needs it. So we're back to 2006.
that gas tank for $20, that family dinner for $40. Those prices aren't coming back. They were never going to come back. The system doesn't work that way. The people who designed the system knew it. And now, if you've watched this far, so do you. The question that's worth sitting with isn't how do you beat inflation. That framing assumes you're in a game where winning is possible if you're clever enough. The real question is, what do you do when the rules of the game are set by people whose interests are different from yours? When being sensible and cautious is systematically more expensive than being leveraged and aggressive? When the safest thing you were ever told to do, save money, is the thing that quietly punishes you most.